How many four-letter words can I use on that?
Transfers to a double. Cheddar is driving. Nothing yet. Takedown, Michael Cheddar.
Oh, Nick, I'm a top guy, so I love top wrestling.
Hale trying to sink him. He does. Maximus Hale the fall.
So I think that wrestling is the greatest sport on earth.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into On3 Wrestling. I'm your host, Nick Kosko, and pleased to be talking today with Utah Valley head coach Adam Hall. Coach, appreciate your time, of course, coming onto the program. Talking a little bit about Utah Valley wrestling. First, just take me through this whole process, going from NC State, landing this gig over the course of the offseason. What's the transition been like for you?
Transition was fast. NCAA's got over the excuse me, March 23rd. Technically, my contract started the 24th, I guess. And I was out here. I drove across the country, was out here March 31st, met with the team April 1st. It's been going ever since. Yeah, it was fast. And to be honest, it really has been great. I mean, I like to say there's more ups than downs. Knew that it was going to be quite a build. And just knew that whether I put the work in right away or have to deal with it on the back end, like the work was going to have to be done. So, I just put my head down and get going,
I was actually fascinated by when you were named the head coach. You were finishing out, as you just mentioned, your contract at NC State was up, and then the very next day you start your tenure as the head coach. Going through NCAA's. I mean, I got to imagine balancing out coaching your guys over on the East Coast, and all of a sudden you're also worried about, all right, how am I going to start building this Utah Valley program, recruiting aspect, guys in the transfer portal? How'd you manage to balance that out, considering you still had a job to do with NC State?
Yeah, and I had told the guys before it was announced that I was going to be the head coach on Valentine's Day. And I just told them, look, I'm going to be as present as possible, and I still have a job here to do. And just being able to compartmentalize the two things, because it was a lot. There were a lot of people reaching out, just a lot of questions, a lot of relevant things, like the academic advisor here, like, hey, what do you want in terms of finishing out the academic year here? And then there's a grad breakfast or grad dinner coming up, like eventually, like just a lot of things that were relevant need to be put on my plate. But I just try to compartmentalize as much as I can. And I mean, I like to think that our guys here and the guys at NC State know that I'm all in or I'm all out. I'm just, when I'm in, I'm in. And so I was trying to compartmentalize as much as I could, and just made it seem like I was present and there for them.
So talking about being all in with Utah Valley on your staff, you put together pretty much a loaded staff going into your first year. Timmy McCall, Andrew Hofstadter, and of course Joey Lavallee as well. When you put this staff together, and I know it was, I think, just one after the other. Maybe a couple weeks in between the hires. When you were looking out for candidates and guys that you wanted to either be familiar with or guys you thought were a good fit, had this staff come together, and ultimately this group of guys was the best group here for Utah Valley?
Yeah, I think things happen for a reason. I'm a man of Christ, and I just believe that people were put in front of me for a reason, and there were a lot of great opportunities in terms of people that I brought on campus. Kind of shot for the start. I knew initially I was trying to get Timmy and Andrew, but really that third assistant, just trying to find somebody young, hungry, new. If they still were competing, cool. If not, like, that's fine. But in Joey's case, he's going to he's going to continue competing, and that was obviously a big plus because it adds a ton of value to the room. But yeah, really, it was just finding the people who wanted to be here and who fit. It's not too far from honestly from recruiting, just building relationships, and it took some time. There were a few guys who came on campus because I shot pretty high for that position, and there were a lot of interested people. it finally worked out with Joey and his wife Sienna.
Obviously, he brings a lot of accolades. You just mentioned he's still competing All-American at Missouri, so definitely great for the room. I'm curious about Timmy, though, because he has the NC State ties. Was he like and you said you already knew you were probably going to bring him over. Was he the first guy you thought of immediately when you got this job and you were building out a staff, whether, maybe you had a big whiteboard or a list of targets? Was Timmy that one of those guys where you're just like, got to have him, he's coming? And was there any battle to bring him over, or was it pretty much just like, all right, I'm coming with you over to Utah?
Yeah, I'd say him and Andrew initially, because I know I needed a contact in Utah. I'm originally from Idaho, but I've been on the East Coast for 13 years. And so just a lot of people that I knew out here, obviously, but Andrew was a club coach here in Utah, and he had his hands on a number of the best kids in the state. And so a big selling point for getting the job was just trying to keep a lot of kids in the West home, and especially in Utah. And I know we'll get to Terrell eventually, but he was a huge piece, because he's already done a great job just selling himself and selling the state. Like, you can be great at a program that's building, And so Timmy, he's my guy. We've been through a lot, thick and thin, and it was a little bit of I'd say a battle, in the sense, like, it had to make sense, because it's not just him. I mean, his wife Beth and son TJ, were with him. They moved back to Wisconsin to be closer to her family, so that's a big move, because they literally just moved there and been there for 5 or 6 months, and so it was pretty tough in terms of, like, is this right? Is this the right timing? Because he does, I think taking a year out of coaching really helped him have the perspective of, like, what he really wants to do. And he missed it. He's a relationship guy. He's not per se a 9-to-5 coach. He is whatever is needed to be done, but is still a great family man. And so, just trying to surround the program with just great people, like Andrew and his wife Taylor. They have 3 kids. Joey and his wife, I think, eventually want to have kids, and my wife and I, we have 2 kids, and so. Just a family atmosphere, wanting to build on that. And it took a little bit, because it had to make, again, like I said, it had to make sense for Timmy's wife, Beth, to be able to come here. But ultimately, just the beauty of Utah and the growth that's happening here, and just the potential of this program, it's just too much to turn down.
When you talk about the potential of the program and creating that family atmosphere, you already alluded to Terrell, and that's Terrell Barraclough. Comes over from Penn State. Again, he's a Utah native, but he was a guy that was in the transfer portal. A lot of people were curious about where he would go. He ends up coming back closer to home, of course, now wrestling for you guys this coming season. I got to imagine he was sought after in the portal, because he was a guy that maybe a lot of people thought had a lot of untapped potential, just never really could crack, again, a loaded Penn State lineup. I'll start with him before we dive into the rest of the portal guys, and of course your recruiting class coming in. What were the conversations like with him, bringing him into this program, and was he on board right away? Did you have to sell him a little bit, or was he just like, this looks like a good opportunity for me for my final season?
Yeah, I mean, he did his due diligence. He took his visits. I think Iowa State, NC State. There were, I think, right after David Taylor got the job, was trying to talk to him. But I think ultimately, just a couple things. Like, one, he'd been away from home for 5 years, and I think that was a big deal, just being closer to his family, and just being able to be a big fish in a small pond. I told him he would be surrounded by high level people, and that was a big deal. And going back to that third assistant position, just trying to find another person around that middleweight who can scrap, And luckily, I've had some recent happenings. I'm trying to get Jason Chamberlain involved with our RTC, and there's a couple guys who are I'm trying to add to the RTC as well, and they're right in the middle. And so he has quite a few guys that he can scrap with, aside from guys on the team. And I think it's been really healthy. He's had a lot of time and energy poured into him, and he's poured it back into the program too. He's a great leader, works really hard, just a great human being. In fact, he's outside my door right now doing a private with some kids on his off day, And so yeah, just he was a huge piece because I think it woke the state up. I think it was like, well, we'll wait and see the potential and see what's going to happen. Then it was like, oh, geez, okay, so he's coming home. And then some other guys out west that I know decided they wanted to be here. There was a few, I'd say, uncommitted guys who had a lot of potential in the West.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have 6 Western states represented in the class that's coming in. And then also a guy, Pat Mullen from Izzy Style from Illinois. Pat was actually the first guy that I had on campus. He was here like the first week after I was on campus and never been to Utah. Came out with his mom at the end of the weekend, was like, yeah, I'm in. Love it out here. So, but going back to Terrell, he's been just a huge influence on our team because he's raised the bar. He's raised the expectations. Like he's met the expectations that I set for the team and that our staff set for the team. And it's when you have guys like that, it's just you're pulling people up with you, and you can see the change that's happening. There's a couple guys in the room like the first month. I say they had just like a glassed over look, like what are we doing? Like who is this? And now it's like you get 3 months in and these guys have life in them and all of a sudden it's like they trust what we're doing. They trust the system that's already in place and where we're headed.
It's fascinating to me because, again, I believe Terrell only has the 1 year left, so he's only going to be on campus for his graduate year. When you talk about a leader like that where he can make that big of an impact in such a short period of time, what does that do for you and like the younger guys in your program, and how does that propel you guys moving forward, considering maybe he makes a great impact, but it is only 1 year rather than he's a guy you recruited and you're going to have for 4 to 5 years?
Yeah, I think he is doing his due diligence and he's laying a lot of groundwork in the state. He's originally from Kaysville, Utah, which is like an hour 15, hour 20 north of here, and it's pretty close to Kyler Sanderson's club. And Kyler's got a number of hammers in there, and he went to the same high school, Layton High School, as a couple guys on the team, but also several guys we're recruiting too that are nationally ranked type guys that just had a lot of success in Fargo, and they're basically in our back door. And I told Terrell, I said, look, it's a shame that you only have 1 year left, but we're going to make the most of it. And whether you accomplish your goals this year or not, I want you here afterwards. And I think it's already on his mind. I think he just has so much ahead of him in terms of wrestling because he hasn't competed, like been the guy full time yet. And so he's a guy that we've really had to pull the reins back on because he's just like he wishes the season was here right now. He can't wait to get his hands on guys. And so, yeah, I think with him, it's just there's still a long-term plan because he has a degree in biomedical engineering, and then he's in the 1 year accelerated MBA program. Like he's very smart. His parents are very smart, and but I think that he has a career ahead of him in wrestling still, and he's a guy that I would want to build the RTC around. And I come from a product where Pat Popolizio did a great job of surrounding the program at NC State with guys who know the program, who graduated from the program, and are invested in the program that way. So, I would very much love to do that. And there's going to be some guys that maybe want to come back home, and I'm going to entertain that.
And speaking of Pat Popolizio, again, head coach at NC State's done a great job building up that Wolfpack program to one of the premier programs in the country. I was going to ask you before, what have you learned from him necessarily to become a head coach, considering the experience that he's had and what he's done to build up a team in the ACC, and then basically with NC State elevate the conference as a whole? I mean, what have you taken away from him, learning under him for nearly a decade over at NC State, and what can you implement at Utah Valley? Maybe directly from him?
Yeah, I think right away a couple of things are structure and running the program like a business. When I met with the team April 1st, I gave the guys 3 things that I was going to do right away, 3 things that I was going to do by the end of the fall, and 3 things that I was going to do indefinitely as long as I'm the head coach. And I just think about the structure that we had at NC State. And Pat running it like a business, that's exactly how it's going to be. Like, in order to change the expectations and results from that, there has to be some structural changes, fundamental changes, and just putting that in place right away was building a schedule for the guys and training schedule and what we were going to compete in. We had a handful of guys, like 10 guys, go to the U23 Nationals, get a ton of experience. We had some guys had some good wins, and just right away building out a staff and then surrounding the program with new people. Because I told the guys, like, it's going to do one of two things. It's going to help you out because you need training partners, and it's going to push you to be better, or they're going to take your spot, because that's life. That I want you to understand that this is a business, and the best guy will go out there and wrestle. And then a few things by the end of the summer, beginning of the fall. I told the team I was drug testing them. I've been very open in the recruiting process that there won't be drugs in or around our program, and that's one thing that I really take from NC State as well. Is like, people know that about NC State, but it is true. It's like, at the end of the day, this sport is very tough, and to be the best, very few people can get away with a lifestyle that they can do whatever they want and still win at a very high level. Everybody else has to do the right things in order to have a chance to win, and so in order to set guys up for success, you just want to eliminate that distraction. Then a couple other things by the fall. I just intended to meet with guys individually just to understand their goals, their expectations, and help them understand mine, because if theirs aren't aligning with mine, I'm going to help them understand like their potential and where they need to be shooting. Because I told the guys this year a couple things. I said, number one, don't be surprised when we're beating teams we're not supposed to be. Because I said, it's not going to surprise me because we train for it. I expect it. Our staff expects it, and you guys should expect it too. And maybe the only people in this that believe in it are people in this room, but that's fine. That's all we need. We have a lot of support surrounding the program, and that's helped me move things forward. But I also told the guys, like, if you don't have goals that scare you, then you're kind of wasting your time. Like, if you've already been to the national tournament, I asked Hayden Drury, like, you've already been to the national tournament. Is it a goal for you to go to the national tournament? It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. A goal for you is getting on the podium, because that's something that's tangible, something that is going to take a lot of work and a lot of focus and a lot of coaching, and we're here for that. So I challenge the guys that way. And then the last thing is by the end of the fall is just preparing the team to win at a higher level. I want them to feel that, and that goes along with, hey, by November 1, when we hit Stanford on the road, I want you guys to expect to win. We're not just going there, let's just kind of see where we're at, new coach and stuff. No, I'm going there to win. I'm not gonna waste your time. I'm not gonna waste my time. I'm preparing a schedule that is getting you ready for the end of the year. We're gonna take our lumps here and there, and we're gonna give our lumps. You know what I mean? But going back to Terrell, I said, I'm trying to create a schedule that is geared towards high level and is going to help you get what you need. I mean, hopefully he hits what would be 2 All-Americans 2 weekends in a row. I mean, we start the year at Stanford and at Nebraska. Yeah. You know what I mean? I heard there might be a lineup change in Nebraska, and that's fine. But we're preparing for 2 battles in 2 weeks in a row, and that's what he wants. That. I want the rest of the team to want that, right? So then a few things, just indefinitely, as long as I'm the head coach here. Just number one, just believing that this program can win. I know winning starts at the top, and guys have to feel that, and even going through the hard times, they have to understand that I believe in them. Our staff believes that they can win because we've seen it in our room. We know what they're capable of, right? Number two, and definitely is, as long as I'm the head coach here, is just maintaining and building a culture every year. There's new people coming in every year, and people leaving, and you have to cultivate a culture every year. It's not like, oh, I have this culture set and I'm done. No, it's like every year you reiterate the things that are important. You lay down your expectations, and my third point, indefinitely, is accountability. I'm just going to have accountability over myself, over our staff, over our team, over our administration. Our administration's even felt it. I think they kind of knew that there was going to be quite a bit of movement right away, but I don't know if they think that, or maybe thought that it was going to happen so quickly, like pieces were going to fall into place like this fast. Mm-hmm. And when you get a ball rolling, it's pretty hard to stop. It's like the recruiting that happened here. It was real slow for like a month, And then all of a sudden it was like bang, 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 bang. Then you get 2 months in and all of a sudden you have 18 new guys who are coming, And so I think that at the end of the day, every successful business, every successful company, family, whatever you want to have is 3 things that surround that successful culture, that successful business. And it's accountability, role responsibility, and communication. And when you have those three things like solid in check, it usually you have a lot more success than if you don't. So that kind of hopefully gives you a kind of a snapshot of the philosophy and what's been going on in the first 3 months here.
Yeah, it definitely gives me a lot of insight. I'm sure the listening and viewing audience can really picture now what you've been able to build in just 3+ months, and even before you guys even step on the mat. I wanted to hit on Hayden Drury in a second because I was going to bring him up as one of your veterans on the team that could really take a nice leap this coming season as well. Sticking with the recruiting class first, because you mentioned how that just came in waves. Before we dive into it, I wanted to give you a chance to talk about Luke Peltier, who obviously he tragically passed away recently, but you guys put out a heartfelt statement and seemed like you're going to be very supportive of his family and what he was going to mean to the program. He was coming into Utah Valley this year. I just wanted to give you a few moments to share what he was eventually going to bring to Utah Valley and what he meant to you guys.
Yeah. Just to be honest, thinking about it, it's like kind of getting me emotional because, I had quite a bit of contact with his mom leading up to the funeral last weekend. And it's just really tough situation because he's a great kid. I was actually, with all the chaos that was going on, I was flying Delta this last weekend back from a family reunion, and I was stuck in Spokane, Washington, and his mom was actually flying out of Spokane, and she couldn't get to Salt Lake, so she had to fly to Vegas and drive from Vegas, and they had to start the funeral late because she was going to be late. And Timmy McCall went and represented our staff, our program, and he just said he's like I was just tearing up at times because he just seemed like the jokester and but the guy that was always reliable, always had a smile on his face, worked hard, did all the right things, and honestly, like there were 2 other guys from his team from Snow College that are going to be with us this year, and I mean they were really close to him. Obviously, it was those 3 that were coming, and it's just really tragic accident, really sad car accident, and but I was actually talking to our administration yesterday, meeting with them, and they were asking me, well, what are we going to do? Are we going to keep his name on it? And I said, yeah, he was going to be a part of our team, obviously, regardless, so he's going to be, and our SID is going to put a little story about him, and just so people, when they're wondering, and people maybe don't know about him, and we'll be able to know. And what I'm working on is trying to get some patches that will go on our warm-ups that say LP,
Nice.
because we were just starting we were really just getting to know him. He obviously visited here and had come up for some RTC stuff, but he had a summer job, and he was actually traveling between work and where he was living when the accident happened. And so, I just told him, I met with our team Monday, and I just said, these tough times, I want you to just reflect on like the blessing you have just to be here, like just to be alive. And because later this fall, right before school starts, I'm planning on taking the team. We're going to take the team to a children's hospital just to try to brighten some days and help our guys have perspective, because what I told them, like in the room, like this is relatively hard. What you do is relatively hard. Being Luke's mom, who her son died, like that's hard. It's really hard. Like a mother of 3, like that's hard. Like what you do is relatively hard. And, a kid with an 8-year-old with leukemia, that's really hard. Right. They didn't choose that hard. Like you guys get to choose this hard, so don't forget that, it's a blessing to be in here, so I'm glad you brought that up, because I wanted to be able to talk about Luke, and we're obviously really looking forward to having him on the team, and he's still going to be a part of the team this year.
Yeah, I really like that, and that really hit me as well. The legacy that he's going to leave for you guys, I'm sure is going to be immeasurable, and what he could have brought to the team would have been, I'm sure, outstanding. So obviously, all the well wishes go out to his family and all his relatives and his friends, of course. Speaking of the recruiting class, you just mentioned, tough transition here, but you mentioned two of his teammates were going to come over as well. Then the recruiting class as a whole, in terms of the freshmen. The transfers as well. You're bringing not that you're reloading or reshaping the entire roster, but it seems like it's a mix of the influx of talent from guys you're pulling out of high school, guys that have been able to transfer in. Terrell notwithstanding, of course. But when you look at the roster now, you've been able to shape now over the past few months, and what you've been able to bring in. Just what can you say about this recruiting class, in particular the freshmen coming in, but also maybe some of the transfers that could stand out as well.
Yeah, it's a really good start, to be honest. Just being able to get the guys, like I said, that wanted to be here, and we had a few guys who were junior college transfers, Division I college or Division I transfers, and then some uncommitted seniors that had a lot of potential, and it's a sneaky good class. I'll just say that, like, being on the East Coast, being around Pennsylvania, like these guys can wrestle, and just helping them build their confidence and acclimating to the Division I level is important. And I think our guys that were already here are appreciative that I was with them for 6 weeks leading up to like the first guys coming after they got out of school, and just having that time to build those guys up and build their confidence and help them trust me and the new system was important before this influx of like I said, 18 new guys just showing up and ready to get going, and so yeah, it's going to be exciting this first year. And I just know we as a staff knew that the foundation is really going to be set with the 25 and 26 class, because we were on the ball so late with the 24 class and transfers and uncommitted guys, and that it was, I won't say like piecing together a class. You still have to figure out like the guys that fit. But there were quite a few guys that just did fit and wanted to be here. And that's a big thing. Obviously the class is headlined by Terrell and but there's a few guys in the room that have already made an impact and may crack the lineup as freshmen.
Going back to the veterans, to circle back to Hayden Drury, you mentioned that, when you were talking about implementing your process and your program plan and what you've taken over from NC State as well, Hayden Drury is a guy to me that could really excel and get onto that podium. And just a couple clarification questions as well. He's still listed at 141, and you mentioned the matchups for Terrell as well. Is he going 65, or is he going to be moving up to 74 as well?
No, he'll be at 65.
65. So, yeah, then circling back to Hayden Drury as well, but one of your lightweights in the lineup. What can he exactly do in the room, or maybe he's already started doing it so far in the spring and the summer to get to that next level, to become an All-American, maybe become a national title contender? It feels like the pieces are in place now from what you're describing to me already.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was from day one, he was already working hard. It seemed like he was already bought in. He was excited about the next step of the program, and he'd been here for a few years, and he'd been at Fresno State actually for I believe a year before they dropped their program. And so he's had a perspective from a few different coaches and staffs, but I think for him, it was, how do I make the next jump? Like, he didn't get what he wanted last year. Like, he was a qualifier a couple of years ago. In fact, he wrestled one of the NC State guys at the national tournament. And so I think for him, it was kind of a reset and just having a competition in his sights for, this is what I'm training for, and this is what I'm preparing for, and I'm going to hit some good guys there. And he did. Like, beating Ryan Jack was a big deal, and it was tough for me because I coached Ryan for the last 3 years, but I wanted to celebrate Hayden and his success because that was a big step for him, knowing that Ryan had been an All-American literally 2 months before.
Yeah.
And I think that just validates the work that he's already done in the room and the potential he has. And for him, it's going to be how well he can open up his offense. He's pretty good defensively, and he's really gritty, and he's got great offense. For him, it's just letting loose and being able to open that up, because he's a very good all-around wrestler. I'll just say that. And so having some guys in the room like that are important right away, because he leads by example, isn't tremendously vocal, but he's very much like Terrell, has just put his head down and works, So I'm excited for him in his upcoming year. There's a couple other guys that have had starter success, or that have been starters for the program and had experience, Big 12 experience. And one of the guys, Case Mauger, 133 pounds. He's really gritty, really tough. Idaho kid. He's really dangerous, can cradle from anywhere, scrambles well, has an offense same kind of thing as Hayden. Like, he's pretty good defensively, and it's just pushing that wall back. And I've just encouraged him in workouts, like, go get another one. Don't rest on top trying to turn the guy if he's going to just sit there. You know what I mean? Because he'll ride anybody.
Yeah.
And he's looking to turn anybody, but I want him to be able to open up his offense when he's going to need it, So, they're again, like I said, there are a few guys that have potential and are ready to make a mark this year.
I really like the fact that he can cradle from anywhere. Even knowing me during my high school days, I would try to cradle from the bottom because I was trying to avoid getting pinned, obviously. So, Adam Hall, Utah Valley head coach, with me here on On3 Wrestling. A couple more for you, coach. And again, I appreciate your time. You coming from Boise State when you wrestle, I know they don't have a program right now. They recently brought it back. Who knows if they bring it back again? But being an Idaho native, I was curious about this area of the country, considering you're taking over a program in the state of Utah, where it could be fertile recruiting grounds that people might not know of. Idaho, the same thing. Knowing your background, where you're from, and knowing the area maybe a little bit more, despite being on the East Coast for so long as well. When you look at the area around you now, and then now this new recruiting map for your school, how do you use that to your advantage, knowing that you were here at one point, you had success from the area at one point? How do you use that to your advantage?
Yeah, in fact, yesterday I was going through it with Andrew, because when we were at Boise State, we were a part of top 10 teams.
Yeah.
And we were going up and down the lineup, and every single guy from 25 to heavyweight was was from the West.
Huh.
And I think it was a big deal, just showing we can win. We don't have to be from Pennsylvania or Ohio or New Jersey, in order to win. It's not that you percentage wise, you probably have obviously a lot more potential with those states, but at the end of the day, they're great kids out West, and they just need options. And I just created that option with Utah Valley, and especially a lot of these guys that were close to home that were looking outside the state, and now Utah Valley is a viable option. Just looking back at Boise State, it was having a winning culture, and just tough people. Mm-hmm. I actually said this, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago to a lot of these guys out West, Nate Engel, some of these guys are like, look, if you're not building a relationship with Chris Owens, he's the development director in the state of Idaho, you're going to be behind in like I said, 3, 4, 5 years, because just wait. He's going to just churn out Division I guys, because that's what he did with me, with Clayton Foster, Sean Jones, Kirk Smith. There were a number of Idaho guys that came through the system that had success at the college level, and they were a part of his system, and I think this past year, Chris said that they had 11 guys go Division I out of the state of Idaho, and it's just going to continue to build and grow, because he has grassroots level. He takes kids groups to the Heartland duels and to kids nationals, and he's busy, and he's reaping the success because of that. And he's fully supportive of me, as is Kyler Sanderson. Spent a lot of time with him, both in Fargo and various camps, clinics, and he believes in what we're doing here. And just really excited about what's going to happen, because at the end of the day, we have a lot of relationships from out east, both myself and Timmy. Timmy was a part of Team PA for the last 4 or 5 years, knows Kyle Martin really well, and several guys who were on that staff. We recruited a lot out of Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York, just out east, and just built relationships with club coaches, high school coaches. And the thing is Utah Valley is incredibly affordable. I've actually talked about finances with several club coaches. Like I was talking to Ben Askren at U16 Duels, and he's like, "Wait, how much is out-of-state tuition?" And I told him our out-of-state tuition $17,800. Our in-state is $5,800 a year, not a semester, a year.
I can only dream.
So it's like there's so much potential here to win.
Yeah,
and just knowing that you have some things to help you win is important. And we're talking to some kids from Pennsylvania, we're talking to some kids from the Midwest, and again, it's finding the best kids that fit where you're at.
When you're talking about relationships, I was curious about this because I've talked to again, he's not at Utah Valley, he's at Utah, the football coach Kyle Whittingham. I've talked to him numerous times. He's a big wrestling guy. Utah does not have a wrestling program, at least as of now. Who knows now that they're in the Big 12? Maybe they'll add one down the line. I don't know if you ever talked to him or if you ever had a conversation with him now being in state as that school, but I mean, is there a chance here to kind of build a bit of a pipeline, knowing that a guy in that position is a big wrestling fan? Maybe now more people will pay attention to Utah Valley. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think talking to alums and just people in the state. Ben Kerr, he's the first All-American here. Very involved with the program, gives money, time, sweat, blood. I mean, when he's not on the road for business purposes, he's normally in the room, either like talking to guys or lacing the shoes up, And so he said it would be awesome to be the best men's program in the state.
Yeah.
There's only one Division I wrestling program in the state. There's us, and then there's a junior college, Snow College, a couple hours away. But just being able to compete with the University of Utah football in terms of being the top men's program in the state and having that draw. And, University of Utah women's gymnastics is kind of the top dog. I know BYU, like cross country and track, is nationally recognized and have a number of Olympians. But the goal is to be the best program in the state that's very recognizable, and just building roots is important. I'm glad you said that. I try to learn from just different coaches, different people, and pick something up. And you reminded me that I was going to reach out to Kyle and some other coaches in the state to pop in and hopefully just see how they operate. And because there's always transferable skills and methods and systems that you're like, wow, that could really work with us. And I'm glad you said that, because I do want to build relationships with people in the state, because I just want people to understand, what wrestling is and why there are going to be thousands of people coming to these dual meets. And, we have Oklahoma State on the schedule, and we're planning a big night for it. And it's going to be in our arena. And when I was on my interview, our administration, they were really excited talking about the duel a couple of years before. And like, yeah, we got 3,000 or 4,000 people. And I said, well, how many people does this place hold? And they're like, 8,000. And I said, well, why can't we get 8,000? They kind of looked at me and well, yeah, I guess we can. And I was like, well, we're going to, because we're going to build relationships in the state, and people are going to come see a new product that, people are going to be excited about. So yeah, I do intend to build relationships in the state, even outside of Utah Valley. And because at the end of the day, like whether it's networking, business, there's always people out there that want to either support the program and want to know how. And that isn't just money. We have a really, really well-established mentor program. There's a guy close to the program named Sean Warren. Him and JD Jepson, two business guys in the area, have very, very good connections. In fact, Utah has the #1 economy in the country right now, and you can feel it driving up and down I-15 with the number of businesses that are popping up. And we actually have our own Silicon Valley that started. It's about 20 minutes from campus, called Silicon Slopes, and it's just a hillside of just big software companies, IT, research and development, and so this mentor program that was started by Sean Warren and is being run by JD Jepson is allowed our guys to be able to stay in the summer and help them have jobs and internships when they're done. And talking through the recruiting with several guys who are deciding, it was like that's a big deal, because they're thinking about their time after college as well.
right?
Which they should. So, circling back to really tie up the question that you had, I do intend to reach out to people who are more established than I am and have had success. And Kyle's had a ton of success at the University of Utah. To be honest, driving up there on their campus, I love our campus, and BYU's campus is beautiful, but the University of Utah is like on a hillside, tucked up against the mountains. You drive down 10 minutes and you're in downtown Salt Lake. It's a beautiful campus.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable there. And if you ever, like, one of the guys close to the program was like, if anybody ever was able to start a program at the University of Utah, it would win. It would win. It'd be so easy to get people there. It's beautiful, great academics. You're 15 minutes from the airport. It's just there's a lot in this area that affords opportunity and success, and we're just taking full advantage of that. And part of that is building connections.
Man, everything's coming up Utah. It's certainly a campus and, of course, a state that I would like to visit eventually. Of course, Kyle Whittingham, to me, one of the more successful coaches in college football overall. 2 decades of excellence over there with the Utes. So you mentioned dual meets, and Coach, I'll leave you here with this again. Appreciate your time. I ask everybody, big dual meet guy. In case anybody who's watching this hasn't heard, I'm a big dual meet championship guy, big advocate for that, for the sport. That wrestling does need it at some point to determine the team national champion. I was curious about where you stood on that opinion, and what do you think the sport can do to maybe get to that level if that's something that you're interested in?
Yeah, I think there's a couple parts. I think probably like 3 parts. Number one, I think all coaches out there would love to see a single semester sport. I know a few years ago at the National Coaches Convention, there was a poll, and pretty much everybody raised their hand. Do you want a single semester sport? Like, absolutely. Like, we kind of torture ourselves going through some of the best eating holidays out there outside of like the 4th of July, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, fall break, spring break, Christmas break. It's just, it's really hard to get through a 5-month season. And in talking with some people, I think I was talking to Willie Saylor about this and a couple other people. It's like, you could have the best of both worlds. You could start your season and have 2 months of dual meets, and you have a dual meet championship, and you take a break for the holidays, and guys get to like rest and recover, and you come back and you have a week or two, probably like 2 weeks to ramp up and build back up to a tournament season. And you have tournaments, and you end of the year with the NCAA tournament, and you have the NCAA tournament in April. And part of that, the second part is can you get the NCAA on board and the TV rights, the contracts that are involved? Like, can you convince them that there's going to be really good products in both, and one's not going to take away from the other? There are tens of thousands of people who would go to a dual meet national championship and the NCAA tournament. So in terms of like a single semester sport, you could also start in December or January. You could start in January and end in April and have a 4-month season. In fact, I think that's what gymnastics does. I think they start end of December, beginning of January, and their NCAA championship is like 2 weeks after ours.
Yeah.
So I just look at like long-term, the health, the mental health for student athletes, really just finding a better model. Cause I think we're stubborn, and it's a double-edged sword. We're stubborn in a lot of great ways. We work hard. We put our head down and work, and we accomplish great things, but we also are stubborn for change. And I think when people adapt and see that we can have the best of both worlds, then yeah, I think you're going to have another model that could just take the sport to the next level. Because I mean, the concern right now is the dip in viewership. Mm-hmm. And it's hard when I get it. We have rule changes every year, and for the casual fan, it's hard to follow sometimes. Part of that's education, but part of it is just helping people understand that dual meets sell. They do. Like, people can understand one team versus another team, and it's an hour and a half, 2 hours, and they're done. It's a soccer match, a basketball game. That's relevant to them. Not a 9-hour, 10-hour tournament. Like, that, they're just not going to sit there and if you're trying to build the casual fan base, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess to your question in terms of dual meets. I think they are important because I try to put our guys, and I will try to put our guys in the mindset of, hey, this is the NCAA second round. This is the NCAA quarterfinals that you're getting ready for one match, and then we're going to hit a break.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So this is like you're gearing yourself up for this environment, and you know, I guess it's hard because some people don't put stock in dual meets. I think the year that American finished 5th in the country, they were 500 in dual meets, or less than 500 in dual meets, but they had 4 All-Americans and a national finalist.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so it's tough. You have to know like what you're trying to do and what you want. But if we're really going to move the sport forward, like we have to prioritize dual meets because they sell.
Yeah. No doubt. And I think the ratings speak for themselves. I know, being a Big Ten guy, being a Rutgers guy for so long, the Big Ten Network has done a great job with that. I know the ESPN starting to pick it up now, the ACC and the Big 12. But I think you just gave great insight right there, especially with the single semester sport. Maybe down the line, make that drastic change to the sport. And who knows, maybe it's for the better. Adam Hall, Utah Valley Wrestling head coach, entering his first year. Should be an exciting one. Coach, I'll have to get out there for a dual meet for you guys, be one of the 8,000 in attendance when you guys spell it out against Oklahoma State. So looking forward to you guys on the mat this year. Looking forward to talking to you again down the line as well. I appreciate your time.
Thanks so much, Nick.
This is On3 Wrestling right here on On3 Sports. Be sure to like and subscribe to this video. And, of course, check out our other content at on3.com.